All right. Welcome back to another episode of the Growth Never Stops podcast. And for this episode, I have a special guest on. And it is someone I've known for years and I've been wanting to have on my podcast for years. It's the man, the myth, the legend, someone I have great respect for, Emmanuel Imana. Welcome to the Growth Never Stops podcast, brother.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you, my friend. I'm so happy to be here with you and so honored, and really excited for this journey together. Really looking forward to it.
I appreciate it, man. Appreciate it. Before we get into it, could you maybe briefly introduce yourself so that people who are watching
Yeah,
this or listening to this know who they're actually listening to?
yeah. So as you say, my name is Emmanuel Imana, and actually my full family name is Shimimana, which means thanks God in my mother tongue. And basically, so I was born in Rwanda and I grew up there until the age of 11. And basically in 1994, there was a genocide. And that tragic event that happened actually shaped my entire life until now. And has led me to most of my decisions that I've taken in my life. And for example, when I also started my spiritual journey, was a way to find peace, to heal from my own trauma for this tragic event, and also my entrepreneurship journey as well, which is my desire to be in a position to have an impact on other beautiful souls, um, like like what happened basically, in my homeland, to be able to support those beautiful souls, and I'm still taking those decisions in alignment with my process of, still integrating some of the wounded, some of the trauma, but at the same time bringing a new perspective of of a different life from that event that actually happened, in this lifetime. So, and I'm somebody who's actually, in love with growth. Yeah, I started as a way to integrate my own wounds, but now I'm enjoying myself. And this is why we're actually having this podcast with you. And because I know you're also a fan of personal growth, and yeah, we're looking forward to keep moving forward with this journey with you, brother. So this is who I am in a summary, in a nutshell.
I appreciate the transparency. And honestly, I've told people about you and about your story for the past years. I like to cite you, to quote you, and I really look at you as some sort of mentor. And
Mm,
it's not a loose statement. So it's really something that I take with a grain of salt, and I'm not saying this to anybody. And that's what it's about for me for this episode today. It's gonna be about you. It's gonna be about your
mm,
life story. It's not gonna be focused on a specific knowledge, competency, skills, or lessons, even though there are some things along the way that are going to come out of it as
yeah,
well, of course. But I can really imagine with you having more episodes in the future where we dive deeper into more specific things. But this one is really going to be about you, and you already touched on it. And just to share with the viewers or the listeners, like you cannot imagine what type of struggle it was to just get it going and get started. And you see, maybe with the modality that we have now, both of us were using our phone to record the podcast episode because there were
yeah,
so many technical issues, some things that I've never experienced before with my laptop, with my HD webcam.
yeah,
It like everything shut down.
yeah,
There were all type of issues on both sides. I
yes.
cannot you cannot make this up. This is really some next level stuff. We are recording on our phone right now.
This is crazy.
It's insane. It's
I
it's
swear.
unbelievable. I had to mention it because like
Yeah.
nobody's gonna believe this, but this is real
Nah,
right now.
this is crazy. We can, people can only understand it when they live it. But, indeed, I always say that, when this happened, and not only once, but twice or three times again, and this is crazy. I'm always saying that, it's like, like for me, the way I perceive this life experience here on Earth is like it's like a spiritual battle, you know, and this spiritual battle is between different forces. We can call them force of light and force of darkness, and they're constantly in conflict with each other. And sometimes when this kind of things is happening, it's like when there is resistance, to, for example, this podcast and so many challenges that you face, that means that something is upon is about to happen, and when something is upon is about to happen, it's like there's resistance, there's frictions, and there's things, and I'm sure, people and yourself or people who are listening to the podcast, it's like, when I'm sure they have experienced something in their life where where something huge was about to happen, like the more intensity, the more friction there was, and until the breakthrough happened. And this is actually exactly also what happened during this podcast in some way, because there's this friction, something huge is about to happen in this call. I don't know what is going to happen, but yeah, this is not random. And there's no coincidence in this universe, and that's the way at least I interpret it myself.
Oh man, I fully align with what you just said. And while we were saying it, it reminded me of one of the famous quotes from Nikola Tesla, where he said, "If you wish to understand the secrets of the world, think in terms of frequency, energy, and vibration." And this is
Indeed.
this exactly what it is, like the
Exactly.
frequency alignment, and
Yes.
it's wow.
Yeah.
It's some next
Yeah.
level stuff. There is something going on. We cannot
Definitely.
maybe see it, we cannot perceive it because of our limited senses, but with it, all the things that are going on, we only perceive like 0.001 or something like that of the entire light spectrum and all of these things. So it's one of the downfalls or one of the pitfalls of humanity is um, placing us ourselves above what is, and
Mm,
being a little bit too arrogant. And sometimes
mm,
it's good to have both feet on the ground and just
completely.
recognize that there are a lot of things we don't know, and there are a lot of things that are going on that we cannot
Definitely.
perceive with our limited
Oh,
senses.
yes. Yes, yes, definitely. I mean, joining to what you just said, about Nikola Tesla, and also this ability to perceive, only, 0.001% of reality. And I learned that from my mentor, Jonathan Amaret, and basically it's like, this is where when you realize that actually we only perceive 0.01% of reality, and the rest is beyond our own comprehension. This is where you humble yourself, this is where you realize how we are tiny drop of water in this universe, but at the same time, into this divine dichotomy where we are also the universe, also expressing ourselves, And so yeah, so this humble you, and we just have to, just to laugh about it, because you have no power over that, right?
That's it. That's it. Just fully embracing it. Just fully embracing it.
Uh,
So, just for the viewers or listeners again, if there are some things as far as just the quality, just bear with us. We are making the most out of this situation, this opportunity, and it will still be a great conversation and a great episode.
Definitely.
All right, man. So, just to get back to your story, of course, it's totally up to you, but would you like to go a little bit deeper into this, as far as coming from Rwanda and witnessing live a genocide, and just basically being a survivor? It's something that here in the comfort of the Western world, it's very, very difficult for people to even imagine.
Yeah.
So maybe, if of course, it's totally up to you, but
Of course.
feel free
Of
to
course.
get a little bit deeper into it as well.
Of course, my friend. No problem. With that, and it's like, and again, it's for me, it's an honor to be able to share that, and maybe, for all the people, it might sound difficult for me to share that, but I realize in my own journey, of integration and healing and growth, it's like I understood that your mess has to become your message, you know. And I've learned indeed to integrate so deep, my mess and the chaos that happened to me, and to be able to transform into a message. And hopefully, while me sharing my own mess, hopefully the message that will come through this will impact, whoever is listening to that. And so yeah, basically, as I was saying, I was born in Rwanda, and in 1994 there was a genocide, and I was actually 6 years old, and I was there with my mother, and the intention of my mother was actually to bring us, in Europe to have a better education and everything, and and the thing is that, like she was only parent that she had because my father died when I was one, and first of all she brought my sister, in Europe, and then I was the next one, but then the genocide happened, and basically, when I was there with her, um, yeah, it's like it's actually an accumulation. I mean, I don't know how much people know about, the genocide in Rwanda, but it actually came from, colonization originally. And while doing this colonization, like differentiation started to happen between our people, between our ethnicity, because there's different ethnicity in Rwanda, and where there was like the Hutu, which is the biggest population, the biggest representation of the population, which is 60% of the population, and the Tutsi, which represent like 39% of the population, and then 1% of the population, which is called the Twa. And basically, we're all living in harmony before the colonization, basically. And then actually, when colonization happened, they start to make differentiation, between us, between people, like, like physical trait differentiation. And for example, the way we used to live in harmony is that, um, the 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 Hutu were the one who were actually working on the land. The Tutsi were the one, let's say, owning the land, or like owners of the cows and different animal. And then the Twa were also people living more into nature and forest and everything, and we're all living in harmony. Then when colonization actually happened, and they start to make this differentiation, and starting in some way to kind of like favor, the Tutsi, and I am myself actually a Tutsi, uh, and they used to call us the white nigger, you know, because we had like, when they start to make differentiation within physical trait, okay, they used to say like the Tutsi had small nose and small lips, so it's like we like look more closer physical trait to white people than actually black people who had like, bigger nose and bigger lips and everything. This is those kind of physical differentiation that they start to make. So it was the colonization from actually Belgium first of all, and then Germany. Um, and then basically, throughout, this type of differentiation, this preference that, the colonizer actually started to put out there, it created hatred within, the member within the community and everything for so many years, and more than 100 years actually. And then that hatred built up, until actually the genocide happened in 1994. And I was there. So that's the historical part, a little bit for the people who didn't know about in a summary, about the origin of the genocide. And in 1994, basically, this is where the heat up of the hatred actually happened, where, within 3 months, more than 1 million people were killed. You know, so that's actually the scales of actually what happened. And I was there, with my mother, in the city center of the capital, and I was living in a building where, actually almost, everybody was killed in that building except me and my mother, and at that time, like I didn't understand why, like why I didn't die there, because most people were killed. And then it took me sometimes, I understood it like, let's say, 24 years after, when I came back to the place where I was almost killed. And during actually the genocide, I was separated, with my mother. And when I was separated with my mother, basically she gave me to a neighboring family to save my life, because the neighboring family was Hutu family, so not all Hutu were like like killers, but I was saved by our Hutu family, because I was friends with one of the neighboring, kid, and and then I moved, as a refugee in the neighboring country in Congo in order to be able to spend my life. So I was like could be convinced as one of the kid of the family, and my mother was left behind, and I didn't know if she was still alive or not. And basically, I was in an orphanage, among all the orphans, either lost their parents or who didn't have the parents, in Congo, and I stayed there for 1 year. And at that moment, I actually completely lost, my ability to speak and to even like, to talk, to even express my voice. Like I was not speaking, I was mute. And and the only moment where I was expressing myself was actually to express my anger, to this so-called God. You know, if there's any God, how come he or she has allowed this to happen? You know, because even the worst of the worst things actually happen in churches. You know, because people actually were trying to find refugees in churches, but then when they were going to find refugees in churches, the leader of the churches were locking down the churches, either were burning the churches, or either were telling the killers that the people went to the churches. Most of the massacre were in churches, and if you can go right now, still in Rwanda, and see like um, vestiges of many people actually who died in churches. So this is still factual there. And so this is what for me at that time, like I completely lost faith, lost faith, in humanity, lost faith, into whatever, religion. And then after I expressed my anger, I was expressing, like I challenged God, you know, I challenged God, and I said, if you truly exist, please allow me to see my mother just one more time, so at least I can say her goodbye, you know, and because I didn't even have the opportunity to properly say her goodbye. And so 1 year passed, and then at one point, after 1 year, like there's this lady, who was one of the guardian of all the kids, and she came to me and she said, somebody's here for you. And I didn't even pay attention because I was playing by myself. I was not as social as I am now. And then I didn't had my back, against her. I just heard her voice, and I didn't even turn myself. And then at one point, I just felt, like I just felt, an energy, coming closer to my body. Then at one point, I just felt some arms, around my body. And then all the tears that I sought, that I cried, because I cried so many nights, that they didn't have any tears left anymore. And when I felt those arms around my body, my whole body started to weep, as if it was raining. And all the tears that I thought was not there anymore came back. And and then when I turned, I saw my mother, you know, and my whole body was shaking, and I didn't know if it was one of the thousand dreams that I had, for 1 year, to be able to see her again, and if it was a dream, I didn't want to wake up. And when I woke up the next day, she was still there, and I realized it was not a dream, you know. And then from that moment on, because when I was challenging God to be able to see my mother just one more time, I said that if He or she allows me to see her one more time, I will be forever be grateful to him or her, and I will fulfill my purpose of why I came here on earth, and I will follow whatever mission is here for me in his or her name. And because from that moment, God kept his or her promise, I had to keep mine. You know, so this has started my, let's say, my journey to try to find who God is, and I started, going different direction to in my quest of who God is. Because in order for me to be in a relationship with God, I didn't, and I wanted to know who God is, but not in the way that men taught, but in the way that yeah, I wanted to find my truth and my relationship with God, basically. So I started to read the Bible, the Quran, the Torah, and going in different circles, talking, with different people from different religious backgrounds, and then yeah, at one point in my research, and I think this is where my true spiritual journey like consciously started. I mean, even if it started long ago, but like consciously, it's when I found this book called Conversation with God from Neil Donald Walsh. And that book completely, like blew my mind, my heart, and my soul away, And for me, I would say that's the first time that I truly found the answer that I was looking for in my relationship with God. That book blew my mind, and it's like it made me. First of all, it made me realize that I was not crazy to sing the way I sing and to ask the question I was asking. And if I was crazy, then I was not the only one because this was a best-selling book which was written in 1994. And if I was crazy, I was not the only one, And at least I had other people to connect with. And basically, this is how that book actually set up my path to spirituality, to meditation, to personal development, to see, because like if I could say what actually truly shifted me beyond the fact that that book like had most of the answer that I was looking for. That book made me cry. That book made me smile. That book made me scream. So much emotion, so much awakening. But the deepest truths that I found in this book was that uh, each and every one of us is an expression of God. You know, and God is expressing to us and in different perspective. And for me, when I discovered that truth, like it freed me. You know, it freed me, and I started to see myself completely differently, and I started to, you know, to yeah to to truly see and try to express the divine within me. You know, and to different perspective, and then from that journey, when I started, let's say, to doing the integration of my wound and trauma from the trauma that I had when I was in Rwanda. And I started to find some tools to be able to actually integrate, those traumas and to release and to go back to go get that inner child of mine and to integrate, because I left a part of me there. Part of me died there. And then when I did, let's say, the emotional process, I had finally enough courage to go back there physically, you know. So I went, I went there. So the first time I went back in Rwanda was 10 years after the genocide. 10 years after I left, so we arrived in Europe, So like let's say, so when my mother found me back, like um, in 1995, 96, like Rwanda was freed from the genocide, by the current president, and then we came back, after from Congo. So after the genocide, we came back in Rwanda, and then I think 2 years after we left, for Europe to actually see reconnect with my sister, and then 10 years after, we came back in Rwanda, and that was my first reconnection with my homeland after 10 years. And I started to make peace with my homeland, to try to integrate that. And then throughout the years, like every 5 years of 3 years, I was trying to go back. And then for my 30th birthday, I went back there on the actually in the building where I used to live with my mother during the genocide. And when actually I woke up that building on the top of I started to walk the stairs of that building. And I put my hand on the handle of the stairs. My whole body started to shake. My whole body started to shake because it's like even if a part of my mind has shut off my some of the memory that happened, at that time to protect myself. The body never forgets. The body is actually the subconscious, So when I put my hand there, like the body remember what happened, 24 years before. And then my mother actually helped me, to stood up, and I asked her to come with me because I wanted, uh, for her to tell me, some of the things that my mind shut off as a way to protect myself from the pain, basically. And so she stood me up, and I told myself, okay, I haven't come this far to stop here. So what happened is that, I continue, I took the courage, and I step up, continue walking the stairs until we reach the level where we used to live. And then we reached the door where we used to live, and now instead of an apartment, it was an office. And when I opened actually the door of that of that of that office where it used to be our apartment, where we used to live to the genocide. And then my mother told me um, that actually what happened is that the killers, starting from the first floor, then they gang up to all the floors, and I think we're on the third floor. And then after, when we heard our neighbor is actually being killed, we knew we were the next one. And then what happened is that my mother took me, and she hid me with her behind the door and the wall. And then 24 years after, when I opened that door and I saw the space which was between the wall and the door, I asked myself, how come one person could fit there? And how come even two-person could fit there? And how come the killers, when they enter there and then they start to shoot into the apartment, they haven't seen us? And this is why I realized that I was, you know, I was protected, and it was not my time for me to die there. And when I understood that higher power, you know, higher power has played, a role into my own survival. Yeah, it completely shifted, something within me. And and I know that, it's like, as I told you, before this happened, like, when even this connection with technology happened, like, it's like we are in a spiritual battle, you know. In that spiritual battle, like, it's between those forces. And I saw, because I used to have the ability to see beyond the physical, that time. And I saw the dark force, which were present there. Because to reach that level where you kill 1 million people within 3 months, you have to have reached the darkest, of humanity. Like, this is beyond human beings. What you cannot call even like that human being human. You know, and I never reached that to my worst enemy. And and when I understood that, like, when I came back there 24 years after, how I was protected, I came out of that building completely different, you know, than I entered. And I transmuted. I transmuted, that perspective of why this happened to me into how now can I use what happened to me into something as it become a light from the darkness I came from. And I always say that, you know, the deeper the darkness of the past that you have been through, the lighter your future and brighter it will be. Because it says that, God is only given his greatest battle to his greatest soldiers, you know. And after me having been through that deepest darkness, and me coming out of the way I am now, and how people see me and how people perceive me, and they see the bright light that I'm emanating, and the like, some people used to even to nickname me the sunshine, you know. Uh, but I am able to emanate that vibration, that energy of sunshine, because I've been through the deepest of the darkness. And because this is the divine dichotomy in which we live in, it's like the extreme of the extreme. And I understood that I had no other choice than to actually, share my story, that my mess become a message to the world, and that whoever is listening to this, if or he or she is struggling and going through some challenges right now, that if they can listen to my story and realize, the darkness I've been through, and to where I am now and where I'm going, then they can get some hope and faith into the darkness that they're into, and then they can make it happen. That if I was able to make it, they can also make it happen. You know. And so this is what I understood into that moment, and that I had to share my message and start to be more expressive, you know, and integrate, because to be able to integrate such a level of this wound that I cannot be able to share it now, you know, without checking, you know, because I truly integrated that, which is part of me. And yes, so and my whole journey from that moment was indeed to keep integrating this wounded, this trauma, to keep elevating myself, you know, at a level that I'm able to share that, and at the same time, you know, be able to share the light which is coming out of that process of growth and that process of integration, and being okay in the dark and in the light at the same time, because both are part of me. So yeah.
Man, hey, it is so powerful, and it really gives me chills hearing that from you, with such depth, and seeing how you've been able to kind of live with it, and knowing that there's, still a part of you that is there, and the tools or the things that you've done to be able to, make sure that it doesn't get stuck, and going back to the place again. I mean, that's exactly what, I'm thinking about, and talking about when it comes to your story, particularly, and all of the work you've done after all of this happened throughout your entire life. And it's also one of the things that I would just like to highlight, and plant the seeds into, people, is, one of the things that really bothers me today in society today, especially in first world countries, quote unquote, where it doesn't mean that there are no struggles and no problems, of course, but there's a different level of comfort, and where there are no, um, acute problems of survival. There are a lot of people who will try to just find problems, and fall into this victim mentality, and you had all of the reasons and all of the excuses in the world to look at yourself like that and live that way and carry on for your entire life, but you didn't, and that's also one of the questions that I would have is, how did you even do that, to make sure that, first of all, uh, overcoming this trauma, but also over time programming your mind and your subconscious in a way that you can still create your own life, and that you're not
Mm,
a victim of your circumstances, which was
mhm,
even the case in that
mhm.
particular
Yeah.
situation. It was, but, just like for the future and how your life, went on,
Mhm.
how did you even do that, or like,
Mm,
yeah,
mm.
what was your
That-
approach to that?
Yeah, thank you for that. And maybe before going there to how I was able to do it, let's talk about how I was not able to do it first.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
because in order to understand where you are, you have to understand where you came from. You know, and before being, you know, person that most people know, and that, as you say, you consider myself as a mentor. I've been to the deepest of darkness, meaning that, like, when I didn't have the tools that I had, or I didn't learn and get the tools that I have now, yeah, I went to the deepest of the darkness, you know, into that victim state of mind, which, you know, like most people, because as I say, it's like, you know, like in the way we have been taught, and we have been, it's like we don't give us the tool to handle this type of trauma,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it's like that. And and so before I learned some of those tools, you know, like I was coping with, like most people, like, you know, are coping with so many of the emotional trauma. Like I was coping with drugs, you know. different type of drugs, the wrong people, you know, the wrong acts, I almost found myself even in prison, So, and then when I was in that dark time of my life, surrounded with the wrong people, and it's like actually violence, drugs, violence, drugs, like it's like it was only that was, my escapism of my own emotional void and trauma, basically. And until one of a person that I consider a friend at that time, like died, from an overdose, So, and as something shifted within me, and I realized that, like, yeah, I didn't want this to be my end, And so one of the best things that has actually happened to me was to shift my environment where I used to be. And actually thanks to my mother, because, like I moved, to Brussels, to do my studies. And before I used to be like in a small city in Belgium. And that shift, allowed me to create a new me, not a new me from the past, from the struggles, from the drug, from the violence and everything. And I naturally started, practicing, like martial art. I had like a gym, close to where I used to be, and the place I used to be actually is the, let's say, what I call like the last chance of for use, before maybe prison, and I was in that place, and that was kind of like my last chance. And then close to that place, I had a gym, and then there was like it was a Muay Thai gym, you know, and I started, like this activity, and I started with three of my friends, there. And the first training we threw up, because it was so intense, bro. And then, for me, even though I threw up, like I came out like something completely like shifted, even though it was intense. Like I love that it was a different type of pain, like a pain which was awakening me, and I was like, yeah, I want more of this, and I went there, and well, I think 3 weeks after, my older friends left, and they didn't come back again, and I stayed because I found a new way of actually, releasing my own pain, in a healthy way instead of drugs, instead of, and I was hooked, and it was like also in a disciplined way, and it was like all the like the all like male figure as well, because as my father died, I didn't really have a male figure like to be able to get me into what it means to be a man, and but then this frame, there were other male figure, and kind of like gave me the discipline, the sport, the art. I don't even call it a sport, I call it an art, because this art, Muay Thai, has saved my life. And from there, like I had to make a choice, because I realized that I was better than I thought, And since I'm a kid, I always like love martial arts and everything. I was watching, this Chinese movie, with that song, but like I loved it, even when I was in Rwanda, and then the more I was practicing, the more I was getting better, and everything that I'm in love with, I'm learning, to practice it even better. And so I had to make a choice at one point, because I was starting to make like competition. I had to make a choice between, either keep improving, or either, also, I was like still, like practicing drugs, like smoking from that time, and I had to make the choice, either stop it completely or go to the next level of my competition. So I completely stopped, and then from that moment, it gave me also clarity when I stopped, the smoking and everything, and when I went deeper, and then when I was there, like I was also like I continued my education, and then from my education, like I was in a French system, but then didn't really like that, and then somehow my mother guided me into like a private school, where it's like English Anglo-Saxon, like system, which was more in alignment with where the type of personality that I am, where we put theory into practice, and where the teacher is actually who is teaching you, for example, like our practicing what they teach, basically. So our law teacher was a lawyer. Our business teacher was, a civil entrepreneur. And basically, it's like that school as well. Also was another great point of mine. So it started, from my sports, from my activity sport, which has cleared my mind and allowed me to get out of the drugs hook. even that changing environment, first of all, I changed my environment. So that's key because like your environment can either lift you up or can bring you down. So that's one. Second, sport activity to start to clean my mind, to start to get to know my body better, start to improve and then getting better to what to my craft, something that I really love and something which was healthy. Then after that, the next step was, getting into a different form of education, and when I started, so it was English from, so it was English university, and at that time, I saw that I was speaking English because I was watching some TV show with English subtitles, or I was listening to some music, in English, and I thought I was speaking English. But then when I entered that school, I quickly realized that I didn't know how to speak English, bro. Honestly, because I was among native speakers, and a different atmosphere of type of people that I used to be. I was with like how can I say? It's like sons and daughters of minister or whatever, country, and this was not the type of environment I grew up in. I grew up, in the like was kind of environment, but then and now I was like say quote unquote high class environment. So that also allowed me to see a different world as well. And because we can only dream of to the level of the thing we have been exposed to, and I couldn't even dream of to be a certain level of person because I haven't been exposed to that level of person. But then when I was start to get exposed to the teachers, first of all, who were teaching me, who were like highly successful people, then my the students, I was with and my friends, in that school, I was like, wow, okay, this is interesting, and I was starting to discover, okay, what is wealth and everything. Like I could see and experience it. And I was like, oh, this is really interesting. And then and I remember, because coming back to my English expression, like I remember it was so challenging the first 6 months, when I studied there, because it's different when you listen to some music, or which, but it's completely different when you have to focus on a different language, that you don't even master. So at the end of each day, I had a headache, for the first 6 months, but then after, I got used to it. And then 3 years after, we had like the celebration of our graduation, the, and then it was the 20 years of actually of the university, and basically like every member, like every best of the member had to do a speech, basically, like of the year, of that class year. And it was the 20 years of the university, so many people came from all over the world, basically, to experience that. And then the one of the best of our year was actually a German guy who is a friend of mine, and he told me something that in his speech he was going to talk about me, but I didn't know exactly what he was going to say. And then at one point he was talking about performance, and then when he talks about performance, at one point, he said, talking about performance, I have to say something, to talk about someone, and he said, when I first met this guy, and I heard his English, I didn't even give him 2 weeks before he leave the school, and then everybody was laughing, in the room, and then but the guy didn't give up, The guy didn't give up despite his bad English and everything, and they used even to make joke with me. Every time I was speaking, they were putting like translation. Can I have a translation, please? Like they were making the joke. This is how bad it was, bro.
Oh man.
But then he said he didn't give up, and he could keep on moving and improving himself. And then at one point, he was even challenging me. He's starting to get even like better grades than me. And I was like, what the hell? Like, what is happening? And we had we started to have like a good competition between each other. He said that, and then he was combining, the school, the exam and everything, in addition to his Muay Thai competition, and managing his girlfriend, and this is why I nicknamed him the machine. This guy was unstoppable. He started as the lowest, of the level of the hierarchy in English, and then he was beating everybody. Now, even myself, I was challenged, and he said, like, if the best of our graduation have to make a speech, and which is myself, and because he's only 3 point difference, than me. He should be here as well making a speech with me, you know. And so I want you, ladies and gentlemen, to give a warm, a welcome and congratulations to Emmanuel Imana, you know. And then at that moment, I stood up, and when I stood up, everybody was cheering for me, bro, and in the back of the room, I saw my mother stood up and she screamed, "It's my son! It's my son! My son!" And bro, that moment, man, like, like something shifted completely within me, and then I look at that after and I realize, wow, look where I came from, you know, and where I am being, like welcome and cheered by so many people. I started this, barely speaking English, and I'm one of the top graduated, I'm like, and that moment like something shifted, and I asked myself, how far can I go? You know, how far can I take this? And yeah, this is where I started to truly, start discover how far can I take this. Start discovering my deepest power because I truly start to become conscious of all this. So I wanted to share that with you to tell you that it was not a straight path for me. You know, to also tell the people, like who are struggling and who are going through this, that it's not a straight path. And I had to go through my struggle to actually, come to where I am, And then after that, I actually arrived, in Luxembourg, and then I was hired, I mean, after before we even got there, I applied to 150 jobs, in Luxembourg, and then I was one of the last one. I had like recruitment process and everything was actually at the European Investment Bank Group, and which is the top of finance in Luxembourg. Everybody wants to end their finance career there, and I was, one of the few actually who started my career there. That's also next level step that I took here. It's like and then life continue into that process of journey. Like, okay, how far can I take this? And then I took this journey into my real estate journey, entrepreneurship, and then even my other journey, entrepreneurship. And then every experience was a way to discover again the divinity within me. How far can I express my divinity into every experience that I'm having? Yeah. And I was learning, to always discover, the next level of who I am, and that's the beauty. And and through this, I was fulfilling my purpose, my promise to God, because God fulfilled His or her promise to me, and through me living my best expression, my best version, and my divinity to every experience, and to not put any limit to myself. I was expressing the divinity to me because I truly believe that this is my deepest purpose, and I think this is the deepest purpose of each and every one of us. So it was a long answer to your question, but that's how I was able to make it happen, and I'm still learning into my journey, basically.
That's exactly what it is. That's why the name of the podcast is Growth Never Stops. That's
Yeah,
why, like you said, growth is not linear, and it would be completely delusional to think so. That it's
yeah,
up only, that there are not retracement, that there are not periods of struggles, of yeah, just having to overcome adversity. And that's how I look at life as well. Is there are different cycles, different seasons, different periods. It can be throughout a year, it can be throughout a period of several years, or even just months. And that's just the beauty of it as well. The
yeah,
entire spectrum of what life presents and the different states that we can get into and that we experience, and emotions being energy in motion. And it's what makes life so complete and so beautiful. And
mhm,
I mean, you could have not said it better while also going through your story. And just to get back as far as the timeline,
yeah,
now you were talking about European Investment Bank and going to Luxembourg. And I mean, you've done so many things, from real estate to entrepreneurship to charity actions. I mean, it's you really live in life to the fullest. Like it's not even to just sound generic, but you actually embody that. Uh,
Mhm.
could you maybe get a little bit into that as well? Just how that transition was, yeah, coming to Luxembourg and doing your things there as well, and just how you've continued to grow along the way.
Yes, thank you. And sorry, I moved earlier a little bit because my battery was, like now it is at 2%. So I really hope that it's gonna stay. I just charged it, but hopefully,
Yeah,
it's gonna stay up. So I just wanted
yeah,
to let
yeah.
you know that, and hopefully we will
Sure,
not have
sure.
this technical issue
Right.
again.
I gotta do
Um,
this well, by the way, soon.
yeah, 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 do it, bro. And so yeah, to answer to your question, so yeah, actually, that I was as I said before, environment is everything basically, and the fact that I was able to come into this new environment, which was Luxembourg, also has allowed me to to see things again from a different perspective. And basically, like Luxembourg had a completely different energy than Brussels, where I grew up. Brussels was still, like again survival and everything, but Luxembourg was more like uh, at ease and in peace with their own, how can I say, energy of wealth, and that was something new for me, to be able to be at peace with your own, like an energy of money basically. And as I said, like that transition, like when I applied, to work here. Before I was applying either to be in Brussels and everything, or Luxembourg, and I applied, to more than 150 job, and this why it's crazy that I got the opportunity to work at the European Investment Bank Group, where everybody wants to end their career there in finance. And again, that was another huge victory for me, and to tell myself, okay, how far can I take this? And then, although it was a great experience for me, um, at one point I look around me and I ask myself, okay, is this really what I want to do for the rest of my life? Or indeed it was comfortable, because I would say that if I could, if I could put a signature of the energy of Luxembourg, the word I would put on it is comfortable. You know, and and indeed, that job opportunity was comfortable, and it was great. But I realized it was a place where I could not express my full potential. For me, I consider like a golden cage. You know, it's great, and everything, but
Hmm.
it's like your cage, and I knew I had so much more to offer than that. So after 3 years, I left, which was at the sadness and deeper sorrow for my mother, because for her, like that job was the ground, like above it was paradise, and
It's the
when I got that
pinnacle, yeah.
job when I got that job, she told that to everybody. When I mean everybody, I mean everybody. I received calls from uncles, and aunts, from Rwanda, to say congratulations to me. Some of them wanted me to send their money like this. So it was really funny. So for her, it was like the highest of the highest. It's like as if I was a lawyer, doctor, whatever. Anyway, so can you imagine when I had to tell her that I'm leaving, the place? And she still talked to me about this after 15 years. Anyway, and when I left, I created, like, I went into basically, like, it's like the more I was having this kind of conversation I'm having with you, the more people were telling me, like, I don't even know what you do in finance, Shibuku, human resource, or as a coach and everything. But at that time, I didn't have, like, let's say, the courage enough to believe that actually I could really help people. But then, the more I was having this conversation, the more people were sharing me that with me, the more I started to believe that I could do something about it. So the more research I was making, the more people I saw who were able to make it happen. I told myself, okay, I think I can do that as well for myself. And so I left, and I created my first company, which was called, like, Evolution, with with the word evolved, like in a way that you show the word love into it. And so it's like a process of growth through self-love, because everything starts with you. And I wanted to share my own experience, my own journey, basically, with different people. And yeah, I created my company, and I had that for 2 years and a half, and it was really successful. And a lot of people came to do the event. But then, like even people wanted to join the movement, but I didn't have, let's say, enough cash flow to actually pay the people who wanted to join. So I asked myself, okay, what type of job can I do which actually allow me to keep the freedom that I've created for myself, but at the same time, increase my cash flow. So I set an intention like this, to the universe. And then 2 weeks after, I was coming back from a Muay Thai training, and I parked in front of my apartment. And basically, down of my apartment, um, there was an agency, Remax agency, and then I come out. It was the winter time, like around the same time of now, and they did like Christmas party. And then at one point when I come out of the car, one of the agents, come out of his car, and then he said, he's screaming. He had a megaphone, to scream louder and say, "Oh, you, the neighbor, you have we have always invited you, and you never come actually, and you should come, And he said, we have been inviting for the last 4 years, but you never come. But somehow my tuition told me to go there, and um, and then, sorry, I'm breaking out because now actually the charging has moved to 1%.
Oh,
So
really?
I
Okay.
guess me charging and at the same time talking and doing. Let's see. Anyway, so yeah, and then somehow my tuition at that time told me, okay, let's go. Maybe this is, And then I went upstairs. I went upstairs to put my bag, and I came down. And then he introduced me to the whole team and say, "Oh, this is the number we have been inviting for 4 years. He never come, but this time is there. So big, pull up champagne, caviar, and give him some food. It's okay, nice man, and then he introduced me to the manager, and then one of the manager looked at me and said, "Oh, this guy, he's dressing well, he's talking well. We should hire him, And I said, by joking, I said, why not? And this is how the whole story started. I didn't even apply for the job and anything, and just hire me like this. And then originally I started, like thinking I would get some cash and then be putting to my other business. And then 5 years, 6 years passed, and I killed the game, and I was so happy because I enjoyed this process, enjoyed the journey of entrepreneurship into real estate. It was another level of my own journey, and I absolutely loved it. Absolutely love it because it taught me so much, It taught me so much, and this is where I started to gain a level of wealth that I've never was even able to gain, and I learned so much skills about entrepreneurship, and it was really beautiful. And I truly love, my journey. Like in Luxembourg, Luxembourg has truly been welcoming for me, and I realized how actually this country, the land is such a country of opportunities. And if you truly somebody who's willing, to shift your life and to make something out of it. Luxembourg is a really an amazing place, you know, and and you can make it happen. This is exactly what happened for me. And that's the beauty of this country because we are so many people coming from different countries because we want better opportunities for us, for our family, and everything. And that's actually the beauty of the opportunity that Luxembourg gave it to me. So before, be grateful for Luxembourg and for the
Right.
people that I met. And at the same time, I also met a beautiful spiritual community. I met beautiful souls like you, like Tim, and here I am still, and at one point I left Luxembourg because I realized it was a bit indeed too comfortable, and I needed
Hmm.
another journey to grow, and I went to live in Portugal and everything, and then I traveled for several years, went back in my homeland in Rwanda, and I'm back again, here, because it was my family. But this also gave me an opportunity to reconnect to where everything started in some way, where my own journey started, like on that level, where I'm so proud of myself, and this also gave us the opportunity to reconnect, and I'm so grateful. So and here we are, basically.
Yeah, man, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Really could have not framed it any better. And I would just suggest, because it's something that's very interesting as well, as far as just your entrepreneurship journey in real estate. Like, for the people who don't know Emmanuel, he's done things. It's just big time. The way he's just able um to get from one point to the other, and just the success he's been able to generate throughout the years, and the things he's had to overcome. Sometimes I listen to him talk about his stories, and I'm just like, some of the things just sound unreal, and it's like a typical, motivational American movie. It's just like, wow, this is it's just insane, and that's what I love about it. But I would definitely get deeper into that on another episode, where we maybe focus a little bit more on business and entrepreneurship and personal finance and all of these things, which also have a great room, and for which I would love to create a space as well, because there's a lot of things that can be learned in that aspect of life as well from you. But what I would just like now to get into, to get closer to wrap it up, and also have some other thoughts, just as far as mentors that you've had, and books, and maybe courses that you went through. Maybe we would also get deeper into that in this other episode as well, which will maybe be focused more on just your overall personal development, and just things that you've taken on, and the tools and the things that you've learned along the way. But just to stay in this context and in this frame of your own life story, um, I would like to ask you as well, if you could maybe briefly um, just tell me what comes to your mind, like just one or two phrases, sentences. If you had to compare the version of yourself that you are, compared to a younger version of yourself, whether it is 25, 20, as a young adult, what would you say is the biggest difference? How would you compare these two versions of yourself? If you
Mm,
could, yeah, maybe get into that.
great question. Great question. Um, I would say the biggest difference is definitely my level of awareness about myself. You know, and yeah, if it is one thing which is different, it's like yeah, my younger version was definitely not aware of how incredible, how powerful, and how impactful he is, and he can be. You know, and this lack of awareness, uh, yeah, it's coming from different things. You know, from the education, from the programming, from different things, and I had to craft my own way to rediscover myself. And it's funny because earlier I told you that I started my spiritual journey in the quest of finding who God is. But I realized that into that journey, I was actually trying to find who I am, you know. And the more I was finding who I am, the more I was finding God. And the more I was finding God, the more I was finding who I am. And and that's the beauty of this whole journey. And my younger version was definitely not aware of his potential, of what he was capable of doing, and he was playing it low, you know. And that actually brings me to the quote of Marianne Williamson, which is, our deepest fear is not that we're inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we're powerful beyond measure. Your playing small does not serve them. There's not there's nothing enlightening of you shrinking so that other people around you will feel secure. We're all meant to shine as children too. It is not just in some of us, it is in each and every one of us. And when you allow yourself to liberate yourself from your own fear and to embrace who you are and to shine, your presence itself allow others to do the same. And when I fully integrated that code, I could completely shift it. And I stopped playing small and finally embracing, you know, my light and not being afraid for my light, but truly embrace it and not shying away from it. It completely shifted. That's the difference between my younger version and who I am right now and who I'm becoming.
This is it. Again, it's one of the things I'm putting as an intention out there is to, you know, place a mirror in front of people and
Mm,
showing them that there's so much untapped potential, there's so much
mm,
strength, there's so much adaptability that they
mm,
underestimating their own capacities, their own strength. And this quote, I remember this quote. It was also in the movie, in the basketball movie, Coach Carter.
Coach Carter.
And
I, I
yeah,
heard that from the first
oh
time.
man.
Yes. Yeah.
And when I was young, I was like, what was that? I must have been like 8 or 9, if I'm not mistaken. Of course, you
Mm-hmm.
don't really truly get it, but then
Mm-hmm.
as like I became a teenager and watched the movie again, it made it started to make so much sense, and it's so
Yeah.
powerful. And what we have in us, and it's uh, it's yeah about reconnecting with ourselves, and at the same time it's also connecting with God. And like
Mm,
I can almost speak for myself, and of course you as well, as far as just the faith that we practice and that we embody. It's just our way of living, and just everything that it is bringing along the way, and it's a beautiful journey. It is totally,
mm,
man.
definitely.
Man, giving me chills. This conversation
It
for
was
real.
meant to be. It was meant to be.
But yeah, now
Wow.
people understand, can understand and imagine as well why I perceive you the way I perceive you, and that's exactly
Mm,
what it's about.
wow.
But
Thank
yeah,
you, brother.
of course, brother. But yeah, to wrap it up, I would like to play a little game
Mm-hmm.
with you where I'm just gonna throw out one word, but I'm gonna do it in a sequence of maybe 5 to 10 words. But every time I throw out one word, you gotta respond intuitively, like with your intuition, the first thing that comes to your mind, with one word or one phrase.
Okay.
And you cannot repeat yourself with your
Mm-hmm.
answers. That's the
Mm-hmm.
only thing, that's the only rule.
Okay.
So, for example, when I say something like Luxembourg, then you gotta come up with a word and you say blessed,
Mm,
then you cannot repeat the word blessed again. So
I like
that's
that.
what it would look like. Yeah.
I like that.
All right. So the first word would be freedom,
Mm. Ah, high.
and love,
Mm. Truth.
Rwanda,
Mm. Transformation.
family,
Mm. Mm. Love.
money,
Mm. Opportunities.
meditation,
Mm. Connection.
God.
Mm. Mm. Relationship.
And one more, a future.
Mm. Beautiful.
There you go. There you go. There you
Yeah.
go.
Mm.
I could see it. I could sense it. Very uh, yeah, very, very deep. A lot of intuition,
Mm.
just like Tim. And by the
Mm.
way, big shout out to our friend, to our brother Tim.
Amen.
Really, honestly, and much love to him and
Yeah.
to the podcast as well that we recorded before this one, and just bringing us together and
Mm.
guaranteeing a way of us staying, being in touch, growing together. So yeah, huge shout out to our
I love
brother
it. Shout out to
Tim
you, brother. Thank
Altenhofen.
you for reconnecting us. I love it.
Big shout
Yeah,
out.
yeah, definitely.
All right, so where can people maybe get to know more about you or connect with you or find you?
Hmm.
What are maybe the ways, the platforms? Can you tell
Yeah,
us about that?
of course, so now I'm, of course, less active, on social media than I used to
Hmm.
be before. But you can always, of course, find me, on Instagram, Emmanuel with two M, one L, and point Imana, on Instagram and also on Facebook and also on LinkedIn as well. And I have my own also like on digital, marketing company basically, which is called Up Your Brand.ai, and maybe we're gonna talk more about it maybe the next podcast.
Right.
And It's one of the business that I'm actually managing. So basically, it's to support, different companies, elevating their names, to putting them out there. And so yeah, this is also where they can find me as well.
Perfect, man. Excellent.
Yeah.
Emmanuel, my brother, I really want to thank you and I want to
Mm,
acknowledge you as well for,
thank
first of all, of course, taking the time
you. Yes.
to, yeah, record this conversation because I know that there's just so many great things that you have to share with the world, and why not do it through this way? And I'm
Uh,
looking forward to the upcoming episodes
mm,
as well,
yeah.
for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was beautiful. I'm really, really excited to share this one. I'm probably going to publish it the upcoming weekend already.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, just a huge thanks. It's just you're one of those people, when I'm around you or when you just enter the room, aura. It
Mm,
honestly, I'm not exaggerating. You're really one of those people, and there are not
yeah.
that many people I can say about that. It's just
Mm,
the energy that you radiate. This is
mm.
real. It's not
Thank
made
you,
up.
bro.
This is real, real, real stuff. So
Thank
just
you.
wanted to say that again,
Thank you,
and
bro. I
just
will.
keep doing you. Keep up the great work, and
Thank you, bro.
you're doing fantastic, man.
Thank you. I would appreciate as well. And it was such an honor to do this podcast with you. And bro, we made it happen despite the crazy technical thing that you faced. Even my battery started to go up now. So just yeah, we
Yeah.
made it happen. I'm so grateful. And it was such an honor to do it as well. And thank you for everything, bro. Like, I enjoyed myself doing this. And yeah, I really hope that whoever is going also to listen that, will get as much blessing that you get just doing it. So thank you so much, brother. Thank you. It was such an honor and pleasure, and looking forward to the next
Thank you, my man. All
one. Yeah,
right, that's it for this episode,
yeah.
and see you very soon. And peace out.
It's,